Okay, I'll call this meeting to order of the Brawley City Council and successor agency, the Brawley Community Redevelopment Agency, our regular meeting of December the 6th at 6 p.m. Roll call, please.
Will reflect that all council members are present.
Okay, and we'll have the invocation.
Sean might do it. Would you like to do the invocation?
I thought that's why you were doing it.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure.
He is now look at he's ready to go. He's ready to go. I saw him in the audience.
Very good. Wasn't planning on doing the invocation, but love Jesus, love to pray. Let's pray. Father, we thank you so much for the opportunity to gather like this. Thank you for the freedoms that we get to enjoy daily. Lord, thank you for the responsibilities that you have called us to, the opportunity to gather together as a community to address the problems and situations that are in front of us for the overall well-being of our community. And so the decisions that are made, God, we ask for wisdom from heaven. We ask for your wisdom, Lord, and ultimately that Jesus Christ would be glorified. So bless our time now, make it fruitful. We pray this in the name and for the glory of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Face the flag. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Okay, we'll have approval of the agenda, item number 1.
Mayor,
with some changes.
yeah, but we have one correction on item 5C. The memorandum of understanding should state Brawley Union High School District, says Brawley Union High School District, and it should state Brawley Elementary School District. The MOU is with them.
Okay,
Brawley.
noted, and we'll make that correction. Okay.
I'll move to approve the agenda with the corrections.
I'll second. Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now we'll go to item number 2, public appearances and comments not to exceed 4 minutes. This is the time for the public to address the council on any item not appearing on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city council. The mayor will recognize you when you come to the microphone. Please state your name for the record. You are not allowed to make personal attacks on individuals or make comments which are slanderous or which may invade an individual's personal privacy. Please direct your questions and comments to the city council. Is there anybody from the public that would like to come forward and address any item not on the agenda? You got back up where trouble is.
Well, thank you, Mayor and Council. I have a quick printout to pass along to you guys in relation to what we're discussing right now. And so my name is Sean Arviso, and I serve as the pastor of Christ Community Church Brawley, located at 516 Main Street.
And I'm Raymond Gonzalez. I'm the commander of American Legion, located at 509 G Street, and we share a common alley between both organizations.
And so we're here not only on behalf of our own 2 organizations, but also those who share the same alleyway, which, as you can see on the printout, is a number of organizations there. I believe there's about 67 parking spots. And the concerns that we've heard from our people from our own organizations is the alleyway and the safety of that due to potholes, not only because there's lots of vehicle traffic, but primarily because there's lots of foot traffic. And so, especially for us as a church with elderly or, ladies in heels, that kind of thing, lots of foot traffic coming through. And so we wanted to bring that concern to council to see if we could perhaps work something out about repaving, perhaps not all of the alleyway, but at least a section where it's the highest foot traffic there. As detailed on the blue line.
Mr. Mayor, the city manager has a question. Okay.
And you said safety issue. Is that safety because of the unevenness in the alleyway, or is it safety?
Safety unevenness in the alleyway for foot traffic, and there's also some deeper potholes that are hazardous to vehicles as well. And especially because we're so close to that alleyway is so close to Main Street, it's also used as a detour many times. Especially, I know there's going to be about a 5-month project upcoming here, and so that's going to be used even more.
You're saying by vehicles it's used in that sense, or foot traffic?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody have any questions from the council or any comments?
And the entrance to both our organizations is right next to the alleyway. So it's of particular concern for us as well as the insurance company right next to us.
Sir, do you guys have a lighting problem back there? 'Cause I
We
know
do,
There's been a real, I know at the American Legion, there's been a problem with some of the vagrants camping out back there. I was wondering what your lighting situation is like back there.
Correct. So lighting has been an issue, and we are trying to address that here very soon with exterior lighting. And we have had unfortunate incidents of vehicle break-ins, property damage, that kind of thing, even while services are going on broad daylight, and things stolen as well. And so that is of concern as well.
I'm just curious, you still seeing illegal dumping back there?
Yes.
My dojo used to be right in that. Constantly.
So it's a high traffic area. A lot of people there all the time.
It is. And so there's a doctor's office also across from there. And I also think we need to address some things with the doctor, and I'll state it publicly, but there needs to be just some maintenance on the landscaping in that area too, because it is attracting a lot of vagrants and others. You know, my building's across the street from that area, so I get to see it. I try to keep my property as clean as I can because I know that we have issues as well. And I know even though these are not necessarily entrances because it's the rear of the building, it is used in that manner. And I know people are walking and using the parking lots to be able to access your buildings as well. So, without making any commitments, I think we should look into it. And quite honestly, it would help clean up that area as well.
Yes, and that was secondary, was the aesthetics and all of that. But absolutely, thank you for bringing it up.
Yeah. My thing is like aesthetics should be first, because and safety of course, but that will solve that issue, right?
Yes.
Generally, and that helps clean the area up.
Yes,
in every regard, and so it's just tough. I mean, you drive down Main Street and not just Main Street, any place, any street, and so there's going to be businesses that take care of their properties and those that don't.
We've definitely seen that
certainly,
doing community cleanups,
Sure.
partnering with the city, PD, and other organizations, and so we've tried to do our best to clean up the community as well. And so there's a lot of organizations, as you can see, who share this alleyway, and we just want to advocate for them as well.
Sure. Maybe it's off topic a little bit, Mr. Mayor, but I had proposed something a while back. It was still like in the middle of summer, so just the timing wasn't right. But now that it's cooler, I did want to, talk about a community cleanup. I had included some other cities, but maybe starting here, just focusing on Brawley, and really commercial cleanup, all that sort of stuff. Just addressing the topics. But I know it's not completely related to what we're talking about here, but I think that's a good thing for all of us to focus in on. Just think about the 500-600 block of like E Street, Main Street, those streets, and it's just, you go through there, it's a mess. A lot of homeless people out there too, so.
Yeah, our church has been a part of several community cleanups where we get Republic 40-yard containers.
Sure.
We work with graffiti abatement. And
Sure.
we try to address as much as we can and
Sure.
work with other like-minded organizations. So I completely agree.
But I wanted to do something that's a little longer term, like a 30-day, that kind of thing. So maybe it's more ambitious. Yeah, it's more challenging. But I think if we can get the business community out there to help, because sometimes people don't recognize that they have a mess, And so when you point it out, they're more apt to do something about it,
And I have received complaints about that alley. And so
Yeah,
in
so,
that area
I
in
mean, I've
general.
seen- I complain all the time.
So we can't make any promise, I don't think, but we certainly will take a look at it, I think, from the city staff side.
And it gets a lot of graffiti. That area gets a ton of graffiti. Yeah, so there's no.
Any further questions?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Public comments? I should introduce.
We had a distinguished guest in the
Camilo,
audience.
Camilo Garcia from the Calexico City Council.
Thank you, Mayor. Camilo Garcia, 709 Henderson Street, Calexico. Council member also for the City of Calexico. Council, City Manager, City Attorney. I'm just here to thank my good friend Sam Couchman. I know this is his last meeting. Unfortunately, I won't be able to be here tomorrow. I have my own meeting also in Calexico. But I just want to take the time to personally come and thank you. Thank you for the work that you have done for your community. Thank you for the work that you have done outside your community, the county, with people, close to you. And I kind of like getting a little bit emotional, but I can tell you that you have been a role model. And I think when I was here a few months back, I had a chance to tell you. And I know that you're going to be moving on. I know that you're going to be very involved in the community still. I know that Brawley is still going to be getting your, presence and your talents, and you're not going to go too far. But, certainly, Sam, has been a mentor, has been a leader, has been a fixture of not just Brawley but also for our community. So again, I just wanted to come and personally thank you. And of course, the council for all the work that you do, and that I always have said that we are as good, as strong as a whole, as a community. I think and listening to some of the concerns from the citizens and the things that we deal with, I think we all share the same type of issues. So my invitation also is and listen to the Mayor Pro Tem on the idea of the cleanup. I think we were talking about that a few months back. And I think it's something that we should consider. Retaking and collaborating, not just on cleanups, but on other things that we can share and pull resources. So we understand that we don't have enough resources individually, but as a whole, we can pull them and make a difference. So thank you again, Sam. Best of luck. Enjoy your retirement, and best of luck again.
Thank you very much, Camilo. And to put this in,
I'm sorry.
thank you. To put this in perspective, you have to realize that Camilo and I worked together for quite a few years at the county in workforce development, and we've worked together quite a bit. I advised him not to run in Calexico, but he went against my advice. But then he was successful, and I think he's done well over there. And so we have a long history, and I do appreciate the comments and everything. And I can tell to Brawley that I'm going to be here. I'm going to still be out there. I'll be bugging the council and the staff and everybody else. I'll be visiting inappropriately and probably talking, and also the organizations that work with us, like Republic and everybody else. I'll be bugging them too.
So nothing's going to change, is what you're saying.
Nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to change.
Nothing's changed.
I won't have as much power and authority.
You might have
but
even more,
but maybe I'll have more because I'll get a group together.
Right, exactly.
We'll have a movement.
You'll show up right there and say,
No, you don't want to go that route.
What is it? Pickleball, here we come.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay. So thank you very much.
And before I forget, congratulations, Mr. Hamby, on coming back and your new member.
He's not here.
Not here today.
He'll be here tomorrow.
Anyway, but again, congratulations.
Thank you. And thank you for the kind words. You always have very positive things to say about Mayor Couchman. I appreciate that as well.
It's all.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just take a second real quick to publicly thank Councilmember Garcia. Last year, they did a great job receiving us in Calexico, and then also they added us to the agenda and always been so just open and courteous to us. So thank you for that. Appreciate the support.
Appreciate it.
Exactly.
It almost sounds like Sam's not going to concede.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Are you going to deny the election results?
Right.
I've already talked to Gilly about this. I'm going to become his mentor.
Oh,
okay.
All right.
No, not really.
A little funnier than you are. No.
Is he?
You're pretty funny too.
I don't know about that. Okay. All right. So moving right along. Any other public comments? If not, then we will go to the consent agenda, item number 3. And items are approved in one motion. Council members or members of the public may request consent items be considered separately at a time determined by the mayor. So I'll entertain a motion for approval if there's no question about it.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as written.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any comments? Anything from public? No? Nothing? Okay. Okay. Then all those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Okay. Motion carries. Then we'll go to the city manager's report, item number 4.
Thank you, Mayor. Nothing but good news tonight. A couple of items. First of all, we finally received both agreements for the Line Center projects. The phone calls to Assemblymember Garcia's office seemed to have worked because they became a little bit more responsive after that, so that's great. We're pushing that along, Rachel and staff. And then one announcement, our annual Santa tour, 3rd annual, I believe. We're expanding to 5 days this year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and you see these maps will be posted online multiple occasions. we also have a couple of additions this year. One is we have a Santa tracker where you'll be able to tell where Santa's at every minute of the event for all 5 days, thanks to Chief Duran and Armando and others.
Wow.
They were able to put an ankle bracelet on Santa.
There you go. There you go. That's
Santa's at their house arrest.
That's pretty good, you know?
And
Right, yeah, right. We're testing it, right?
And lastly, this year there will be Grinch will be behind, following along the whole time, trying to.
Wow. Trying to catch him?
And contrary to popular belief, I will not be the Grinch
not
because
the
I'm the
Grinch.
Grinch 360 days of the year.
Right.
The staff tells me so. That, yeah.
Yeah.
But so some nice additions this year. So.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
It's a nicer version of the Grinch? Is
Yeah,
that what it is? Right?
Okay. And so that's
pretty cool.
Okay,
Yeah,
very
I
cool.
like that.
Very neat. And that'll be great for the children with the Santa thing and all that. So good. Okay, we'll go to item 5, regular business. 5A is receive, approve, and file the 2021-22 General Fund Year-End Budget Report. Further approve the amended budget carryovers from fiscal year 2021-22 to fiscal year 2022-23 and allocations to reserves. And that's presented by Carla Romero, our Finance Director, City Treasurer. Carla?
Thank you so much, council members, members of the public, and everyone here in attendance and online. Today I have the great pleasure of presenting to you 2 budget reports, one to end last fiscal year and then the current first quarter budget report as we round the corner to already start talking about next year's budget. So lots of numbers in our heads at this point in time when it comes to finance. The year-end budget report is focused on the general fund and it's presented to you. The fiscal year did end on June the 30th, and so we do have a 60-day accrual period, which means that we get to capture revenues and pay expenses for the prior year in July and August. September, October, we really are focusing on reconciling, auditing, preparing items, making sure everything is captured correctly, seeing what we're missing, coordinating with agencies, preparing for our audit that starts in October. And right now we are almost done with our audits. We have completed 2 of about 6 or 7 that we're currently doing, which will result in a lot of different audit reports that will be finalized in this month and into January. This report does focus on the general fund, as I had mentioned. We're going to talk about major fluctuations from the final budget for both revenues and expenses. Revised carryovers, they are estimated when we adopt the budget initially in June. And then once our final revenues and expenses come in, we give you some adjusted numbers. And then we'll also go and review our reserve balances and some recommendations that we have for those adjustments as well. So let's start off with some revenues. We have some positive news, and then also I don't want you to panic about that negative number there, the $934,279. We'll get to that. So we'll start first with our major funding source, which is our taxes. We're seeing very strong property tax revenue. It came in higher than budgeted, which also resulted in a first quarter budget adjustment recommendation. Our sales tax revenue also came in higher than budgeted by $255,805.
What is that? What do you attribute that to?
A lot of it had to do with fuel sales increasing during the spring, which spiked, sales tax revenue. We are seeing the population continue to shop locally, which is great, supportive local business. And then also agriculture never slowed down. They continue to buy equipment. And if you recall, in the spring and even in the winter, interest rates started to increase. And so some people made some very large purchases in anticipation of locking in interest rates for equipment. And so we saw some large spikes in that sales tax revenue as well.
Good points, thank you.
How much increase did we see in property sales or property taxes?
Overall, I don't have a number, but in the 2 that we saw overages, it was a total of $320,844. And so that would be carried over into the first quarter budget report as an adjustment, and then also in our projections for 23-24 budget. And what we're seeing there is that sales, again, back before interest rates started to increase, were really strong. We have a lot of development. We had a lot of properties being sold, turnover, which resulted in additional reevaluation of properties at a higher rate, which then in turn brought in additional property tax revenue. So those will continue to occur in the current and the future fiscal year.
Carla, in your notes, to me, it was 110,000 for
It's-
revenue. I mean, for property tax, secured property tax.
It's 110, yes,
Yeah.
for property tax, and another 211,166 for vehicle license fee, which is tied to property tax. So the two combined are the $320,844.
Do you know how many cents?
She does. Don't
She
let that
probably
bubble
does.
you.
Don't get
Right?
started.
Don't ask.
I'm playing.
Right? Yeah, okay.
Kind of keeping
was very
with the
specific,
theme
you know.
there. On TOT, we're seeing a lot of the hotels booked, 100% bookings, no vacancies, year round, really. I kind of take a look. I sometimes search for hotels in Brawley just to see what the going rate is, booking capacity, and oftentimes I see like one left, one available, and it's very surprising. But that TOT was stronger than anticipated last year, and so those revenue projections for this year already reflect that.
Real quick, just an interesting observation this past summer that folks are starting to use Airbnb and other sites now. Do we have a tax? Is there a tax that's applied to that?
The Airbnb does not collect taxes on our behalf. It's still up to the individual hotel owner to collect that tax and remit it to the city. And so we have engaged an audit firm, Avenue Insights, that also does our utility user tax auditing to do a hotel tax audit that will start in the year shortly here, like in 30 days.
And I think there may be a taxing implication via Airbnb if they
There is.
meet a threshold. Like if you rent so many, then they start to.
Because usually when
You have to
book,
report
there's
it,
an addition to that. I'm just wondering
Yeah.
how much of that is coming back to us.
Yeah, but I likely people aren't meeting those thresholds. You know what I mean? So yeah.
And so the individual, right now, the individual hotel owner is supposed to collect that tax and remit it to the city.
Mm-hmm.
Those bookings.
Which is,
For the,
It's a
you know
great
how many's been
question.
collected? None.
Yeah.
yeah, probably. For the utility user tax, is that pretty much the norm right now? Is that pretty
It
much
came
stayed?
in pretty strong, and
Pretty
we
strong.
did budget it as well for next year at that level. And so what we're seeing there is that the last month of June, we did implement the additional utility user tax modernization. And so we're already starting to capture some of that tax. Again, our compliance firm is reaching out to entities, making sure they're in compliance, remitting appropriately. We also saw an increase in utility usage, period. So we had some great increases in additional
Mhm.
usage in electricity and gas,
Mhm.
which then in turn brings additional revenue to the
Mhm.
city.
Gas has gone up. Yeah.
Yeah,
Natural gas.
electricity.
Mm-hmm.
So those were the major components and large positive variances that we received on our tax revenue. And you'll see that also the next slide item there, license and permits. Again, we continue to have very strong development where people were pulling permits, wanting to lock in potentially rates and trying to get their projects going. And so that development still continues to be strong even into this year. We may have some adjustments at mid-year in that revenue source. Just want to monitor that a little bit more because of interest rates and inflationary pressures that we are currently experiencing. So I didn't feel comfortable quite updating that revenue for this year at this point. But last year it did come in higher than anticipated. Then we go down and we see a lot of negatives. Revenue that we did not collect and receive, but we are anticipating in the budget report on page 80 of the agenda. It talks about deferred revenues that we did not collect, and they're from grants, state, county program. A lot of it had to do with the Lions Center rehabilitation, which our city manager just mentioned. We just received approval from the state to continue on with that program, and so we would get those reimbursements when those expenses are incurred. And so we're anticipating to get about $1.6 million of additional revenue this year that was lagging or that we did not collect last year. And they're from very credible agencies, right? The county, the state, and grant funds that are related to police for federal items as well. And so those adjustments will end up giving us a very positive revenue. If we had collected them all last year, we would have ended up with about a $700,000 revenue surplus if they had all been collected. So I thought that was important to know. We don't want the public or you to panic that we have a negative, under budgeted revenue collected. We are anticipating to collect those revenues. The last line item there for our ARPA, we did adjust the budget for our ARPA or ARPA. Originally, we had anticipated to transfer into the general fund $500,000, and this was in December of 21. But then in January of 22, the ARPA guidelines changed, and so we adjusted our ARPA budget in June of 22 to reflect the use of that $500,000 instead of just moving it into the general fund for reserve purposes. The ARPA guidelines were expanded and allowed for more flexibility. And so if you remember at that point in time, we added the security cameras citywide. We also added the electronic ability to enter doors electronically, items of that nature that weren't originally included in the original ARPA plan.
Okay.
Any questions on revenues? We'll move on to expenses. So we'll talk about overages first, and then we'll talk about our savings and what we're doing with those savings. We had a very minor overage in records administration of $6,298, and that's only because originally that budget was commingled or combined, with the city clerk and elections budget, and so we extracted records administration specifically from those functions. But that department was created in the end of 21-22, but it didn't have a budget. And so when you combine those two budgets that were originally one budget, we ended up having a savings of $12,174. So really the overage isn't there. It's a combination of those two. Fire Station 1 and 2 did have some minor overages as well. We had some large unanticipated repairs to fire apparatuses. There was also an increase in medical aid supplies, and we also had a new fire marshal that we onboarded and needed some supplies as well, and so you'll see some minor overages there. And then on graffiti abatement, if you recall back, I believe it was in October of 21, we made that position full-time from part-time, so this was the first year that the budget was then augmented to include those operations. And let's talk about budgetary savings and carryovers. So the majority of our departments did have budgetary savings, and we want to both recognize those and we want to thank them, but we also want to carry over some of those savings so that they have operational flexibility this year, and they can also continue with projects that they already anticipated, already started, already committed to providing, knowing that we do have those inflationary pressures. We're not immune to them. We're just like any other person, right? And so we're seeing just an increased amount of expenses this year that, quite frankly, we didn't anticipate even 6 months ago. So we'll go through these. I'll go through them pretty quickly, but please stop me at any time. Our personnel department did have savings of $63,566. We're asking for a $50,000 carryover to continue or to fund the public works assessment that was just completed. And then information technology also had a budget savings of $106,247, asking for a carryover of $80,000 for some citywide software implementations, upgrades, and equipment to continue to replace computers and upgrade software as needed throughout the city as they continue to be identified. The finance department also had savings. We're asking for a carryover of $19,000 to fund temporary staffing and some additional equipment expenses that we have. The non-departmental budget also had savings. We're asking for, and this was the $40,201 is before what's called a journal entry or an accounting entry. So every year we have to book interest due on the general government pension bond, and that interest due lowers on paper what the savings was. So without that that journal entry, the savings here was actually $194,489. And so we're asking for a carryover of $157,000 in non-departmental, and that's to provide services for grant writing, citywide fee study, our hotel audit that we talked about, just a variety of citywide expenditures there. On planning, we also had some savings because we had a vacancy in our director position for 6 months. We're asking for a carryover of $10,000 to continue to help with planning, outsourcing plan checks, and making sure that those services are provided as needed. For police, we had very large savings. This was the department that we had the largest savings of $267,164. We're asking for a $90,000 carryover for professional services, technical services for them, but also in our reserves when we get there, we're asking to allocate $100,000 for a new reserve category that we'll talk about. And it's coming from these savings here for police, for public safety personnel. When we go down to engineering, we also had some pretty big savings there. We are asking for a $100,000 allocation. The savings came from professional services for engineering, and we're asking just to continue to augment that budget for this year as we continue to explore outsourcing some services because the needs continue, the demand for engineering services continues to increase from the public. For parks, there was a savings of $74,534. We are asking for a carryover of $15,000. The savings came from staffing vacancies, halted programs. I remember around this time last year in the winter, we had some spikes in COVID and we ended up canceling some programs, having to do some refunds, kind of jogging back the memory. Why did these things occur, right? And so this year we're having the opposite, where parks, recreation activities are just, everyone is in high demand. Everybody wants them. We're seeing people sign up for 2 or 3 programs. They sign up for lap swim. They may not go, but they continue to sign up because the intent is there, is to do that activity. And so we're seeing a spike in the opposite direction this year. And the big one there, the last one, savings for recreation is coming from the Line Center roof and repairs. That also has the largest carryover amount of $1.2 million. And all of the carryovers are detailed in Exhibit B. They have the account number, the department, what it's intended for, and they do total $1.7 million. And they also have the original estimated amount, so you could see anything that has changed from the original amount that was estimated for carryovers. Are there any questions on any of these expenses?
When you subtract from that number
best.
the amount that you're wanting to hold back for each department, what does that line up be?
The 2.5 minus the 1.7.
Oh, okay.
About
So the
half a
1.7 is what's left over after all that.
The 1.7 would be the, so the savings was 2.2 million, and then the carryover is 1.7 of that amount. Good question.
Very good.
So let's switch gears a little bit and talk about our reserves. We all know reserves are a prudent way of making sure we are fiscally stable, and so we take a look at those every year as we end our fiscal year. We want to have a contingency. We want to plan for potential state takeaways, new laws, changes, major disasters. We just want to have some savings set aside so that we're not immediately reacting to a situation, but really allowing us time to evaluate something when it does occur so that we can make a proper decision. And maybe, if you recall, when COVID first started, we all thought it'd be 3 months. Then we said, oh, wait, this isn't 3 months. This is going to be 6 months. And then we said, wait, it's not going away. Right? But reserves allow us to have that flexibility to make changes along the way rather than just drastically cut. The other thing is that it allows us to have some cash flow fluctuations. Not only in the summertime do we not get a lot of revenue, we start getting it, until October, but we have a lot of expenses in the summer as we're doing 2 fiscal year expenses. And then we also have some very large annual premiums for insurance bonds that go out in the summer. And so what happens is that these reserves cover that fluctuation so that we don't go into a negative cash balance. The other thing we want to note here is that last year you created and approved a new capital replacement reserve. Just want to reiterate that our general assets are about $69 million with about a $2 million annual depreciation. And so that intent is to have some savings there to be able to fund major equipment replacements or have matching funding for those purposes. So this is what our reserve balances look like. I gave you the balance for last fiscal year. These tied to our financial statements, our audited financial statements, and then our balance at 6/30/22. That will also be confirmed with our audit. We're providing these to our auditors as well for verification. The first one there is our prepaid expenses that we pay in advance of the June 30th deadline. This could be software subscriptions. It could be anything from, we paid a training for, like, say, the League of California Cities. We paid it in June in order to capture savings and have a discounted rate. So it's really a combination of expenses that we paid in advance of June 30th deadline. And then the library does have some bank accounts. They have 2 bank accounts with a total of $58,938 that originated from a grant that was closed out and had leftover monies. And so those are restricted for library operations. And then our committed operational carryovers, we just talked in depth about that and what that balance represents, that $1.7 million. Again, that delta, that big variance, you'll see that year-over-year change is 1.2. That has to do a lot with that line center. So 1.2 is the line center carryover. The committed capital replacements, again, this was a reserve we established last year with $500,000. This year we are asking you to approve a recommended $100,000 increase to that reserve line item, which would end at $600,000. We are currently seeking a grant for fire apparatus and equipment, and so it would require about a 20% matching funding, which is about $80,000 to $90,000 on a fire apparatus. And so we may be, if we're successful in that grant application, we may be coming to you to utilize some of this funding here in the next couple of months. And then the new one that we are recommending at the meeting on November the 15th, council meeting, we approved a Department of Justice cops hiring grant where we were able to get 5 new police officers for a total grant funding amount of $1.3 million. But that grant only funds the officers for 3 years, and the city has to pay the 4th year. And we talked that night about this could be about a $550,000 to $600,000 cost for that year 4. And we also talked about finding ways to incrementally set aside money for that purpose rather than having sticker shock on year 4. Right. And so that's why we're recommending starting with at least $100,000 here in order to establish that reserve. It could be, it says public safety, it could be, right now it's for police because we know we have that. But if we secure, let's say, a fire grant for similar purposes for personnel, it could also be used for that in the future. And then the unassigned, which is a 15% target of our expenses, that year-over-year change, the difference would be $22,895. It would end at almost $2.8 million. We are about 98% funded on that reserve target when it comes to expenses. So the difference, or the shy of the target, is $67,000. So we're almost there. But I think the 2 new reserves, if I can get some feedback on that and thoughts, because part of the action tonight is to approve those recommendations or accept any amendments that you might have with those as well.
Yeah, no, I certainly appreciate you getting ready for that, obviously, that commitment that we were making, because we want to increase, right? We want these grants. It's always a concern where and when we have to fork up that cash. So appreciate you putting that together. Certainly puts me at ease, because that stayed on my mind at night. And obviously, we want that. So we need to be ready. So appreciate what you guys are doing. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments on reserves, recommendations, questions?
Looks good for reserve at this point in time, anyway.
Yeah. Thank you. Just some final thoughts and comments to our community and our staff internally. I personally want to thank all the directors for monitoring their budget, providing feedback year-round, answering my multiple questions, balancing all of the needs that they have and pressures that they have with the limited resources that they often are given. Sylvia Luna, our finance manager, prepared the presentations for tonight. If it wasn't for her, I don't know what I would be showing you tonight. So I want to thank her for that help, and also for helping just reviewing all the documents all the time with audits, just answering internal staff questions and supporting our finance staff as a whole. Of course, Tyler. Tyler, don't wipe away the tear, Tyler. It's Tyler's always asking tough questions, right? He was the finance director, and so he knows what questions to ask that trigger more research and analytics. and he also holds us accountable, but he also supports us in finding alternative solutions to maybe the way that we deliver services. So I want to thank him. And just as a whole, all of the city employees, right? They are using the city funds wisely. Oftentimes you hear in local government, if I don't use it, I'm going to lose it and I will never get it again. And so we have tried to change that concept of if you don't use it, let's talk about carrying it over for something that you have already started or a major initiative that the city wants to undertake. That maybe when we adopted the budget, right? Remember, we're developing this budget April, May, June. It's now December. 6 months later. And so the thought frame has been now changed for city employees to say, well, if I don't use it, maybe I can still carry it over and have an initiative done that I wasn't anticipating or being able to do that year.
You would do that with your home budget. You would do that with anything else. And so I never understood why that was a concept, because then they're fearful that, well, if you don't spend that much, you won't get it in the future. It's like, that is just, it's indicative of how terrible government is. It really is, absolutely. You wouldn't do that in private business. You just wouldn't do it. But anyway, I'm glad that mentality is changing. Thank you.
You're welcome. And then to you, our council members, of course, you have steady guidance. You read your material. You ask great questions. You're flexible in how we provide city services. It's not a rigid, must do this. This is the way we've always done it. It's more of a, what initiatives? What can we do better? How can we collaborate with agencies? And so we appreciate that overall commitment to our operations and the community as a whole from you. And then just to the residents and the business owners that we have, they continuously give us input. We had more input this evening as an example. They also provide essential city services to the city as a whole, our community, visitors alike, and they choose to conduct business in the city of Brawley and shop in the city of Brawley. And we really appreciate that because it does help our bottom line. That is all for my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions or...
Any questions?
In regards to the action that you're wanting us to take, you said part of that has to do with these extra reserves, and so you're looking for a motion to approve those?
Yes, the motion would be to receive and file the budget report itself, and then also approve the recommended carryovers and the reserves in the report.
Allocations to reserves.
You're going to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to...
Just want to make one more comment, but that's fine.
Go ahead. You made a motion. You got your motion.
Is there a second? Go ahead.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a second. So now you
And Mr. Mayor, I just doubling down on that last slide, which out of all this that was certainly in the backup material and in the presentation, Carla, to you, to staff, to Tyler, as you've already touched on, but I wish I could name everybody right on down to our department heads, because I know it goes all the way through the organization to commit to this, to make this happen. I just want to say publicly that this is the number one thing that I really highlight and I talk about with members of the public. When I'm asked the very often asked question of how's everything going, at the city, and I really always lead with this, and oftentimes I finish with this too. Without this, all the other services that we talk about, even the alleyway conversation that came up, all these things cost money, in order for us to do this. So truly, truly appreciate the commitment across the entire team and staff, left to right, top to bottom, however you look at it. Very proud to be part of that process. But Carla, thank you for leading that sort of the finance charge. We know it doesn't happen overnight. We know going back a few years, the precedent was set, really kind of getting us to this level where now we have a reserve fund balance that's broken down the way it is, considering all these critical areas in the future. Those are the things that, I know the future still looks tough. Our Mayor Pro Tem mentioned private sector. I know for a fact, being a part of corporate America, how tough budgeting is, cuts can be, reduction in force, all those type of things, and yet providing a very critical, what could be a very critical public-facing service. There's just numerous industries like that. So I just hope members of the public, especially our members of the Brawley public, can truly appreciate what this team and what that staff has done. So just thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to add a comment as well, Mr. Mayor. I truly appreciate what you guys are doing, every department, and watching what's happening in other cities and seeing their budgets come up and seeing the cuts and seeing their runaway spending. we're not cutting services here. Everything's still happening, right? We have police and fire, water still being delivered and whatnot. And yet, we managed to save money. So, kudos to all of you guys. Good job. And I'm just happy to see this report and happy to see that everyone's following this mentality of saving, right? I mean, I do that in my business and the things that I do, just with gas increases. All of a sudden I got to adjust for that. So it's great to see that you guys are doing the same. Department heads are taking responsibility for their budgets and saving the city money. So much appreciated. Thank you.
Very good. Any other comments? Not? Okay, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Good work.
Now, item 5B. Receive and approve and file the fiscal year 2022-23 first quarter budget report and approve the recommended budget adjustments. We still need to do that, right?
You got it.
Thank you again. This one is not as lengthy. This is our first quarter budget report. I'm sorry for it being a little bit late. I was a little sick in November and couldn't get to it, but the budget, again, just as a reminder, is a living, breathing document. We do monitor it on an ongoing basis, and we do these budget reports on a quarterly basis to recognize unanticipated revenues and expenses, and then to ask for adjustments so that we can continue to provide operational flexibility to our departments. This particular report focuses on July 1st through September 30th. I did exclude the budget adjustments that were approved in November because they're outside of that scope, but we did do the analysis through year to date on our request. As I mentioned during the last report, we are not immune to the many challenges that other people have. We're not sheltered from economic pressures, and we face many similar challenges as the private sector. However, local government is not able to just increase rates or provide new products, services on the whim. It really takes a lot of effort to do that. Oftentimes, voter approval is required, and it's a 2-year wait in order to do that. And so, in addition to all the pressures that other people are facing, which mostly are noted on this screen, we have some additional inability to increase revenues. It's a lot more challenging for us to say that. But this also gives us some opportunities, right? Opportunities to think about how do we address staffing challenges? Maybe that there's temporary services, there's outsourcing. Is there a better, efficient way of providing services? Evaluating our programs, are they all really being requested, or is there some others being requested more? And so we're maybe changing one, or reducing one and adding hours to another. So it really gives us time to evaluate as well. So let's talk a little bit about our adjustments. We'll start with revenues, and then we'll go on to expenses. The revenue adjustments are detailed in Exhibit A of the staff report. Again, we talked about the first two during the last report, so secured property taxes and then the vehicle license fee swap that also derive from property taxes. Those increases or those recommendations are based on last year's actuals, and again, we'll carry forward into next year's projections as well. We did receive one payment for the school resource officer from the Brawley Union High School after the 60-day accrual period. We received that in September, and it was about $21,000, and so we need to increase that budget so we don't have a major variance this year. And then we also had 2 state reimbursements, one for engineering services and the other for our home CDBG rehabilitation program as well. And then we had recreational fees. Remember, we talked about there's just a big kind of surge of people wanting to participate in recreational activities. And so seeing registration fees really increase this year and also increased last year to some effect. But this year, we're definitely seeing a large increase. And so you'll also see on the right-hand side there, towards the bottom of the expense, that we're asking for additional staffing for our recreational activities of $15,000. So taking part of that revenue and allocating it to increase temporary staffing to allow for those programs to continue at the pace that they currently are being requested. And then we also have contributions and donations of $15,210. So I'm going to flip over to the next the next slide really quickly, and then I'll go back to expenses. But in April 19th of 2022, the City Council adopted a donation policy. This is the first update that we are providing based on that policy. We said every quarter we would give you an update. We had a total of 13 donors during the first quarter of this fiscal year, with a total combined both monetary and supplies of $22,369. The library received $1,563, Parks and Recs $15,206, and the fire department $5,600. So just want to take a moment to thank everyone for their support of the community programs and operations that the city has, and staff for administering this policy effectively, turning in all the proper paperwork, recognizing our donors tonight, and then also giving council an opportunity to see who it is that is donating additional resources to the city for our operations.
Appreciate that. Okay.
Kind of going back to our expenses, we do have some expense adjustments. They are less than our revenue adjustments. That's always a positive thing. In finance, we did do some remodeling, I will say, of one of our spaces. Mayor Couchman had the opportunity to go by a couple of times, and he saw our many boxes stacked up. And so we had a space that was relatively large, but underutilized. And so it was only housing 2 staff members, and now it houses 4. We were able to repaint the area, buy new furniture, replace the flooring. And so that has allowed us to be able to move around staff so that they work more effectively, and also to house a student intern for the last couple of months in that workspace. It's been much more productive. Staff is happy. They have desks that stand up. I feel like they're more productive as well, and they have a nice, clean, modern space. But that did come with a cost. It wasn't the cheapest thing to do, and we, trust me, did a lot of the heavy lifting ourselves. But still, a budget adjustment is requested for $7,200 to make sure that our department does not go over budget by the year end. And then the city also purchased a second live scan machine. It's housed in the police department, and the intent is to facilitate our background checks for all of our employees and also volunteers, and certain permits that are administered through the police department as well. The vertical bridge ongoing litigation has cost the city to date about $162,632. And so this is not our city attorney. This is specialized litigation, and we are anticipating.
Glad that we're clear on that, because otherwise there'd be trouble.
We definitely do not want to go over budget, and don't want to tell our city attorney he's over budget, because this is not his expense. But we need a budget adjustment of $55,000 at this point, from what we know, to ensure that. Information technology, in August, we did secure qualified temporary services for information technology to augment or to provide staffing, right? Armando was a one-man show, and so he went on vacation, and we really needed a backup plan, and the backup plan has resulted to be quite effective, and we'd like to continue to keep those temporary services to some degree as we round out the year, and to continue to provide that support for him as well. And so the adjustment request is $40,000.
If I could make or ask a question with respect to that, considering there is going to be greater need in the future for IT services within our city, it is a one-person department. Would it make more sense to have somebody hired full-time to assist?
And that was discussed last year, right?
It was discussed last year, and we'll be discussing it again, I'm sure, coming up with this year's budget. We're trying to do a test run with temporary services to see how many hours that person works, what type of workload they take on. Is that an ongoing workload? I know Armando is currently working on a lot of the ARPA implementation plans as well, with the citywide cameras, the phone system upgrades. Some of those are one-time pooling of his resources. And so he's doing an evaluation of what would be an ongoing need. And is that temporary staffing needed at 40 hours, or is it needed at 20? Is it a part-time person? Can we really recruit for a part-time person at that level?
Right.
Was the concern.
I wouldn't.
Why we didn't.
I think there's enough work to be had. I think sometimes from a finance perspective, we're looking at dollars and cents. And I think, quite frankly, when it comes to work, there has to be some consideration for the human element, right? Because there is need for, I'm sure there's plenty of IT work within the city that isn't an immediate need that just needs to get done, right? And so I think we fight fires often. But anyway, I think it's worth exploring just to consider that there may be
we can
a real need for it. You know,
we can-
that's not going to go away anytime soon, the need for IT. You know?
We can give them 40 hours, take them from Mondo's 100 that he puts in.
Right, right.
The next line item is 2 air conditioning units that went out in this particular building, in our administration building. They went out in the summer, and of course those needed to be replaced, and so that adjustment request is $15,000. Graffiti abatement has seen a rise in graffiti calls and having to be out there patrolling, making sure that we're proactive rather than reactive. So we want to adjust that fuel budget slightly in order to make sure they're not over budget this year. Then fire engine repairs. We've come to you this year with a loaner engine from the state. We are waiting for a new engine in March of 2023. But meanwhile, engines have been in the shop, 2 or 3 of them at a time, and repairs are very costly and they're hard to acquire. And we're seeing more and more agencies continue to expand the useful life of their apparatuses because they're so expensive to buy, and it takes over a year even to get it. So even if you wanted to, like in our situation, get a new apparatus, or we're able to, we have to make use of the current ones until we do receive another one. And so those fire engine repairs are what put the department over budget last year. We're going to try not to have that happen again, but definitely already seeing our repairs are higher than what we have currently budgeted. We talked about recreation activities already. And then we have an 10-ton air conditioning unit, very large device, that also went out towards the end of the summer at the library. We have not replaced it, and that needs to be ordered and replaced before the summer comes again, so that we're not pushing the other air conditioning units to cool the entire building and avoid those going out because they're overworked as well. So that's a pretty large adjustment.
I'm assuming they'll be looking at that to see if that could be replaced with 2 smaller units that provide the same amount of cooling, because it might be a better deal than trying to replace a 10-ton unit. Maybe replace it with 2 5s. I'm assuming they're looking at that. That could be cheaper, or it could be more efficient, and it also would provide, if one went out, then the other one would continue to work. So I don't know if they're looking at that, but I would assume that they are.
We can certainly ask Public Works. I know right now we just received the replacement. I'm not sure how the ducts are.
And that's a possibility. Yeah, that could be a problem.
Capacity of the building, but we can certainly look into that.
It might be something for the future to look at those specialized units that are like 10 ton, because normally you're getting 5 ton, but different might be commercial versus home residential, and I'm not sure the difference in cost. So, okay.
That was definitely a large expense, and it does take a couple of weeks in order to even secure that type of unit because they're very rare, hard to find. Any questions on either revenues or expenses?
Questions? No.
These are just for the general fund again.
Okay.
Going over that slide. And so the bottom line, we have here all of the original adopted budget for both revenues and expenses, those approved adjustments through 9/30 of 22, and then those requested within this budget report. If they're adopted tonight, the budget surplus would be $33,480 as we go forward.
Just like to comment, I think you keep a very tight accounting. It's impressive. I appreciate that very much.
We're very impressed. Well, I'm very impressed.
I mean, it's very close.
I always wonder if you do like side work, like,
right? Yeah.
Like manage my budget.
He doesn't have the time.
That was
way to go, Tyler.
Yeah.
I wish I had the time.
Deficit is not that hard.
Yeah.
What's how big the deficit is?
All right. Let's talk about a little bit about the other funds, because we do have other funds other than the general fund that we monitor and also make adjustments along the way. We have 2 revenue adjustments, again, kind of going back to those grants that we received for the Senior Citizen Utility Grant. As you remember, Sylvia Luna gave you a very deep presentation on that, and so we did receive the revenues. The expenses were already done last fiscal year, so don't want a major budget variance there. And then for risk management, we did change our employee flexible spending account. And so now that we have a new spending account, this is a use it or lose it benefit for employees. And the city did have a balance of $19,059. We did close out that bank account. We did receive those revenues. Again, no expenses to offset that. That would just go into our risk management fund. This is the fund that at the end of every year, we have very large liabilities that we pay for workers' comp, one-time payments, and so oftentimes this fund goes into a negative cash balance, and the general fund has to cover it temporarily until we start to receive revenues here. And then on the CDBG fund, that also had to do with the home improvement program. Remember, this is for both these next line items, capital streets for engineering cost. These are revenues in the general fund. So we have to recognize the actual money goes into these special funds, and then we expense it out and refund or reimburse the general fund for those expenses because the salaries are in the general fund. And so you'll see revenue adjustments in the general fund and expense adjustments in these particular specialized funds. The last one there is a combination of, I think it's 6 special revenue funds and enterprise funds combined, 6 funds. And therefore, our quarterly allocations for administration, utilities, engineering, and our software system. The revenues going to the general fund and the revenues were correct. And when I did the allocation during the first quarter, I realized that the expenses were not matching. I cannot tell you why. I'm just going to take responsibility for it and tell you tonight that we need to adjust that so that our expenses match the revenues that were supposed to be in the budget. So that's just a combination of those two together. So talk about tight accounting. I find errors too, and I bring them to you.
There you go.
But yeah. Any questions on any of these funds? So just a little bit about, this is the last slide, I promise, what else we have going on, right? We talked a lot about today about different budgets, finance, where we ended the year. We talked about our audits. We are evaluating grant opportunities for police, fire, parks, and recs currently to determine some opportunities that we are seeing there. Next council meeting, we will bring to you the American Rescue Plan Act, where we are with the status of our current plan and any potential amendments to that plan. We are also working on our last and final recognized obligation payment schedule and preparing that and hoping to bring that at the next council meeting as well. Those are due to the state in early February, and so we want to get that done this month if possible. And then we're also working on the redevelopment agency has 1 property left, and we talked about that a little bit when Guillermo gave you the presentation about water infrastructure and north end capacity. We have that lot that we want to potentially transfer to the city from the redevelopment agency and be able to use it for future water infrastructure projects. And so we do already have some draft reports ready. City attorney is reviewing or has reviewed those. And we're working with a consultant to make sure we're dotting all our I's, crossing our T's so that we are fully prepared both for the County Oversight Board and the Department of Finance for that approval. The land would be transferred at 0 cost to the city, but we do need to make sure we have proper documentation so it passes the DOF, the Department of Finance test. And then, of course, Finance did implement some new policies, and we said we'd review them every year. So that review is currently being done, and then we'll be presenting some potential minor tweaks to those policies for clarification in the coming month. We're working on our financial statements as well for last fiscal year and presenting those to you in January. Starting the budget process also in January for next fiscal year. Working on updating our 10-year long-range financial plan once our audited financial statements are done. And then also bringing forward to you another quarterly budget update in February. That's it. That's it.
Okay. Any questions?
Carla, maybe just more a comment on some of the January stuff coming up. Will you be able to bring forward some of the findings of the public workshop that we had? And I think we had some findings coming out of that that seem to be areas we want to focus on. So that might help refresh us
Yes,
What came out of that?
Yeah, sorry. Tyler, when can we expect to get an update with the firm that we signed an agreement with to go after grants?
We have, Carla can help out here. We have, actually, we have two of them now. And they're on multiple fronts. Some of them will be coming for you for approval next meeting. A couple that Rachel had, well, one of them that Rachel had to work through. The second firm that we just brought on last month has been working heavily with Chief York, Chief Duran, and I think even Guillermo Public Works. So we haven't been awarded anything. You know, it's a big long process with multiple, but they're both firms are attacking multiple
We
approaches.
have the one award from the MLB grant.
Yeah, that's Rachel will be presenting next week. Or next meeting. Sorry. So yeah, we're very happy with what we're doing. It's just a long process. We definitely can provide what we're chasing if that's an interest to council.
Just curious to see where we're at. I was very excited when we brought them on, right, to see what they could do, and I'm happy to hear that they're going after it.
There's two different firms. Competition's always good, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Any further questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve and file the fiscal year 2022-23 first quarter budget report and approve the recommended budget adjustments.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the other.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. Okay, any discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
Thank you. Good job.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to item 5C, which is review and discuss and approve a memorandum of understanding by and between the City of Brawley and Brawley Elementary School District to furnish a school resource officer and authorize the Chief of Police and City Manager to execute the agreement, presented by Jimmy Duran, Chief of Police. Jim.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council, City Manager and staff, and public. Yes, it is our hope that today you would authorize this memorandum of understanding with the school district. As you know, we've been working hard for the last few months with this MOU to establish roles, responsibilities, expectations of everybody involved, you know, the school and our officers. And as you know, it's very important that we have SROs, and we've been having discussions throughout the year about it. And today, I believe this is the result of that. The school district has already approved the MOU, so again, it is my hope that you would do the same tonight. As far as the fiscal impact, the school district has agreed to reimburse the city at the fully burdened rate of the time spent by the school resource officer performing duties directly related to the school, which is great. What it means is no cost to the city. The school district is willing to pay the fully burdened amount. In addition, they're actually willing to pay for a vehicle in the amount of $55,000, and this will be spread out through the duration of the MOU, which is 5 years. We decided to go with 5 years because I believe that allows us to plan ahead, plan accordingly with the finances and personnel. As you know, it's hard to recruit officers, but I would like to take the opportunity to thank the council, because with the new policy that's been implemented and approved by you, we've been able to attract new hires, and we're getting ready to hire 3 experienced officers, hopefully within the next 2 weeks. And again, that's going to allow us to do precisely this, fill positions that we couldn't do before. And as far as the fiscal impact, as you heard, well, no cost to the city, but we do expect the revenue to the school district participation in the amount of $71,700. But again, that could vary, could fluctuate. We do believe it's going to be less than that amount for the rest of the fiscal year. But again, that's going to be dependent on the level of experience of the officer that we bring in per the policy that you have approved in the past. So with that, I would like to submit the request and hope that you would approve this MOU.
Okay. Any questions of the chief? Okay.
Chief, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to make a motion. So go ahead.
Okay. Just a question on the vehicle. Are you guys going to bring back a program kind of like the old school one? They had like the Toby one Do you remember that? Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, you're talking about that
Buggy,
Volkswagen
yeah,
Bug.
the bug.
No, these are going to be fully functional vehicles that we need for the school. But something like that, we're definitely looking as part of our volunteer services.
That was more public relations.
Yes,
Yeah,
more
that was-
public relations. And we're actually, well, I guess I can briefly talk about it. We're hoping to launch a new initiative with the police department. It's called it's what we're calling a CLU. It's a community liaison unit, and we're hoping to brief you on it hopefully by next meeting. I think you are going to be pleasantly surprised of what we're planning on doing. It's a new strategy to augment what we're already doing. I think part of the initial, how can I put it, operational issues that we have cleared out. Our crime, the numbers are showing that are decreasing. So this is going to be part of addressing some of the other issues that are really more of a life, I guess, how can I put it, quality of life issue that we can actually address through the police department. This is something that's going to help us in that respect of public relations as well as.
We had a program like that years ago. It's like 30 years ago here in the city. Yeah, where it sounds like it's similar to that. So that's great.
Yes, it's it's not a new concept, but definitely we're going to bring it here to the police department, and it's actually going to have a little twist. It's going to be a little bit different than what we've seen in other agencies. Again, everything we bring, we try to accommodate it and make it ours. So that's it's not going to be different. We believe it's going to be very successful. It's going to address a lot of the business owners' concerns, a lot of the issues that we're having. Because I believe we're at that level now that we have been able to, get crime under control. So thank God. As you know, so far, no homicides this year. I mean, we went from 5 homicides to 0 this year. I think I call that a success. And I know somebody's going to knock on wood, so we're hoping to remain that way the rest of the year. But again, I call that a success based on the new initiative that we have incorporated with the police department. So.
Also, you have the new dog.
Yes, we do have a new dog. Actually, well, as you know, we have the first dog that you approved. Now you approved the second dog. As a matter of fact, today I went to San Diego to check on the progress of our second canine. As you know, it's a currency and firearm detection canine. And it's actually a black lab. And the name of the canine is Jax, and our canine handler is Agent Harsony. So hopefully they'll be fully trained. I say they because it's a team effort with the canine, hopefully by the last week of December. I'm hoping to present it to the council by the first meeting in January. So.
That'll be very nice. And since I'm retired, I'll borrow him in my spare time to sniff out firearms and cash. So that should be pretty good. Sounds good, Chief. Any other questions?
Yes, Chief, you said 71,700. That is the salary. That's a fully burdened salary, or that is including the vehicle allotment as well.
Yeah, that should include everything. But again, this is just going to be a partial.
The remainder of the fiscal year.
Remainder of the fiscal year. And again, it's all dependent on the experience or level of experience of the officer we hire. As you know, that policy calls for different salary based upon qualifications.
Yes. Any other questions?
No. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the MOU as presented by the chief.
I'd like to second it.
And I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any discussion from audience? Anything online? No? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Got it, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay. Now we'll go to item 5D, authorize contract change order number 2 to contract 2021-02 water treatment plant valve and actuator replacement. And that's for the replacement and rebuilding of various items for a total of $8,855.16 to Core Constructors Incorporated, and authorize the city manager to execute all documentation in relation to this project. It's presented by Guillermo Cias, Public Works Director, City Engineer. Guillermo?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Guillermo Cias, Public Works Director. As it is on the materials, this is a change order for the water treatment plant project, where large diameter pumps and actuators are being replaced right now. And pretty much what it is, all the items is some adjustment that were required based on the field conditions, like cutting bolts, adjusting concrete, things like that. So minor items, but that incurring additional cost. And that's pretty much the reason for this change order.
And the backup has the detail of what they'll be doing. So,
Yes.
the description doesn't give all the detail, but in the backup you have all.
Right. It's like in general, they name every pump or actuator by number and the adjustment that they had to do on the field to be able to replace them.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the item.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any questions? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Gabriel.
you. I would like to take the opportunity, Mr. Mayor, if I may, just to mention something that is included on the staff report, that this is related to the change order number 1, that is mentioned that is in the vicinity of $77,000. And pretty much what that change order included is the rehabilitation of a raw water pump, that we took advantage of the contract that we have open to be able to do some repairs that otherwise we would have to hire somebody through a procurement process, more expensive. Just by simply adopting the new purchasing policy, where is allowing us to do expenditures, including labor, up to $100,000. Right now, we have 3 projects that is in the vicinity of $100,000 for the rehabilitation of Pump 421, the centrifuge software at the wastewater treatment plant, and other piece of equipment that I can't remember right now. But just by simply doing that, we are saving a lot of money. For example, on this change order that I mentioned in $77,000, since a contractor did it on top of the subcontractor, automatically is 15% more than that. So in the $100,000 project, so we are saving $50,000 just by adopting a new policy. So that is the type of savings that we are doing just by adopting or updating purchasing policies or other type of policies that is allowing us to save money. So just by simply adopting that, we save automatically there $15,000. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you. Okay, we'll go to item number 6, which is our informational reports. Our monthly staffing report for October 2022, presented by Sylvia Salazar, the Human Resources Manager. I think that's part of your package if there's no questions for anyone. And then 6B is the update on the City of Brawley declaration of local emergency as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and that's presented by Fire Chief Mike York, and I think that backup's in your package too. Do you have any questions for Mike? If not, okay, we'll move right on to City Council member reports. Item number 7, I'll start with Mr. Hamby.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I don't have a whole lot to say tonight, but I'm just grateful to be through the last several weeks. All that process, the election and everything. I'm glad we had a successful cattle call season, and looking forward to all the events of this week and into our Christmas break. I will have an opportunity to roast you tomorrow night, so I guess I'll hold off for that.
That'll be fine.
And just
roast away.
Glad to still be here behind this dais. Thank you.
Congratulations. Yes, congratulations. Mr.
Wilson, yes, I'll be next, and I'll just echo a little bit of that and be brief as well. It's been a heck of a year and a heck of a month for the City of Brawley. So with all that said, I think we'll have the reorganization. We'll do proper comments tomorrow, Mr. Mayor, on certainly for you as the outgoing mayor, but I know from an official standpoint, real official standpoint, tonight's kind of I think kind of a banner evening for you. So, with that said, I'll reserve some of the fun for tomorrow night, as well as you are newly minted or reminted council members. So, I'll save some of that for tomorrow night as well. But and then of course we'll have our incoming. But I do want to just overall say for the recap of this year, as well as you mentioned cattle call, just what a smashing success from every individual organization, including some of the organizations that I'm involved in, was really a heck of a year in doing no less part from the work that the staff delivers. So I think that sort of call it the high that came from that is still, I think, resonating throughout the community. And I think it's going to be some great things coming up for this new year. So again, reserve some of those comments for the next few nights, Mr. Mayor, and defer back to you.
Okay, Mr. Castro.
Yeah, I'm gonna just. I hope everyone had a happy Thanksgiving. Just have to say, also give Oscar a shout out. Some of the developers that I've been talking to said, hey, he's doing a great job. They're very happy that he's there. And just a quick note, so food for thought for you for tonight, maybe you could deliver that on your comments tomorrow, is, when a lot of people leave public office, they'll lose an election, or, the city might not be in great shape. But I mean, the reports that we received tonight, you should be very, very happy with your work and the condition that the city is in as you're leaving. So not that you manage it, that's tighter, but but I mean, seriously, you want to leave on a high note, right? And what a better way than to leave with a balanced budget, with the surplus, the city the way it is. So congratulations, and thank you for all the years of public service.
Thank
You just gave him talking points for the rest of his life. He's going to say that forever, right? Well, when I was there,
well, good.
I think
we want that, right?
Yeah.
That's
when I was
what we want.
mayor,
I think I've
Yeah,
gone
right?
over. I think now I can go over the 400 words.
Right.
Is that right?
He'll come
When I
back
give
for
my
public
speech
comment.
tomorrow. I
He'll
can
come back
go
for
over the
public
400
comment every
words.
meeting.
I'm
was
overwhelmed
mayor,
by
when
all
I
the
was
comments.
mayor.
Yes, when I was the mayor.
right? That's you just
Kind of
gave him
like
talking.
Colonel down south. I'll just carry that with me. I'll go into Starbucks. They'll put mayor on my cup.
You were
They
the
already
governor.
do that
You
now.
were the
And so
governor.
they'll just carry over. Governor, whatever. Works. Okay, finished? Sure. Okay.
Well, thank you,
Go ahead.
everybody. Good job,
Mayor
the
Pro Tem.
staff and everyone. Congratulations to Councilmember Hamby, and I will save my remarks as well for Mayor Couchman, but I'm excited. I do want to just share with everybody, we will be having something for him at our tree lighting ceremony. That should be great and exciting, so I hope you can all be out there to celebrate with him and us. So, yeah, right, the public roasting is
The public
right?
roasting's
right,
tomorrow, and
right.
then
the following,
the following day too. It'll go 2
Right,
days. 'Cause
Well, just briefly, I do want to mention that I was able to participate in a roundtable discussion earlier today with the California Infrastructure Advisor, Antonio Villaraigosa. He was a former mayor of Los Angeles, and they had staff from the governor's office there. And there's like $100 billion for infrastructure that is being assigned. And I thought it was very important that he was here because you had community leaders, you had some elected officials, you had people from throughout the Imperial County that participated. And really the message was this, and the message is stay united, fight in a form that where you're united, not fighting against each other, and be vocal about it, right? I think that's really important that we all do that. But 70% of that $100 billion is allocated towards transportation projects. And believe it or not, we have a tremendous amount of transportation projects here in Imperial County. ICTC was there that I serve on, and they were in attendance, and they made the point of the fact that there is tremendous need. Remember, transportation projects also encompass and provide opportunity for cities, whether it's, roadways and other things. So that you have to just kind of think outside the box when it comes to that. But I did specifically say we're not asking for $100 billion. We're just asking for $99 billion. Yeah. And he seemed open to that. So I'm hoping that it broke the ice, really, it did. But it goes to show that we really need to be vocal. One thing I have a comment that I made and I expressed, because I participate in different roundtables, and, we always end up at the bottom of everything, right? We're forgotten. Everybody likes to use our numbers for the planning process, whether it's Southern California Association of Governments, whether it's whatever, and sometimes they tie us into San Diego. It's like, what do we have in common with San Diego? I mean, we don't. We're our own little island out here, but we always end up at the very end. And so my point was like, and you know what we are? Quite honestly, in Imperial County, we're nice. We're nice people. We may have our differences, but we're generally nice. And we have to stop being nice. We really do have to stop being so nice all the time and so accepting of the fact that we're last and we're forgotten. Because we're a county that's so far from Sacramento that it's easy to overlook us. And now there's this focus on lithium energy and this focus, and now we have the opportunity, Brawley in particular, has the opportunity to stand out and be known not just on a national level, but really worldwide. So there is focus on us right now. Let's make some noise, not just within the city council, but as city staff, and work to help make some change for our community and change for the valley. I think it's a good time to collaborate with other cities or organizations like ICTC, which is representative of the communities in Imperial County. I mean, it's just a good opportunity and time for us. So anyway, I was honored to be able to participate in that conversation. Great ideas were shared, and I hope that leads to greater focus. From San Diego State University, their leadership was there. She sat right next to me, and they have multiple millions of dollars available for student housing. And if they don't have some matching funds here by January, they have to give that money back. So, I mean, there's opportunity. If we just sat with them and see, remember there's a developer that's looking into doing things out within our city property. I mean, I think there's opportunities for us to be successful collectively. They're also getting over $80 million for their campus. But one thing they mentioned that they don't have? They don't have capacity for water and wastewater. That's something we can offer. So those conversations need to happen, And so anyway, I can go on, but that's all like infrastructure, right? Those are things that we can qualify for and do. So anyway, I was encouraged by the conversation, but that is a whole lot of money. And one thing that they made a point of is that they want communities like ours to benefit from it, not just the LAs and the San Franciscos and everybody, right, and all the large communities that they do have high populations, I understand, but we also have populations, and we also have cross traffic, a border that feeds 60,000 people every day to Imperial County. So our population numbers are higher. They have an impact on our transportation needs. They have an impact on our infrastructure. So it's like we need to be able to account for that. Anyway, so that's but I did want to mention that I think it's important for everyone to understand that there is money that's going to be allocated and available. We need to be able to, make sure that we benefit from that as well. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just sorry. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. But just want to acknowledge my father, 93 years old. His birthday was just like a week ago, and he looks great. And, I wish him a happy birthday. But I want to publicly acknowledge him. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to your dad. Okay. Along with that, and I mentioned to George that the meeting with the infrastructure czar, Villagroso, I went to San Diego to meet with him a month or so ago during a major storm. And we had a meeting with the San Diego officials. Then they called me up and said they wanted to meet with me down here. And I felt it was more important that the incoming mayor met with him. And there was only, they weren't inviting everybody. I thought it was good that he took a seat at the table because he's the one that's going to be dealing with them in the future and not myself coming off the council as I was. So I set that up for him, and they got a hold of him, and I think it probably is very fruitful for us. All we want is our fair share. And I think that's what we really want. And we want them to acknowledge us and be aware that we exist. We know they give money to San Diego. We know they give money to LA. We know they give money to San Francisco and other large communities here in California. We just want to receive some of that funding here for our people here in the Valley, and not necessarily just for Brawley, but for the Valley as a whole. And I think I met with the El Centro people who were up there, and there were some other individuals from Imperial County and San Diego, and I'm sure they were there today. Mm-hmm. And so we want to make sure everybody's involved and gets their fair share.
And if I could add something to that, Mr.
Yes.
I don't even say we want our fair share anymore, because we've said that for so long. I just say I don't want it to be fair. I want money for us.
More money.
Yeah, that's it. Straight up.
It's about time.
It is. It's about time.
We haven't gotten nowhere.
Right. So anyway,
show me the money.
Yeah, but
I got it. So, and that's what we want. And so we want acknowledgement, but we want recognition, and we want funding for some of the things that we'd like to have done here for the people here. And I think that's important. But to go back to my report, I did attend a NOCA event. I was the Master of Ceremonies for the North County Coalition of the Arts off-Broadway presentation at the Stockman's Club a few weeks ago. Very great presentation. It's amazing the talent that we have here in the Valley, singers and other people in the arts. And we have a lot of talent here. It was a great show. I really appreciated the opportunity to MC that. And it went very, very well. And it was fairly well attended. And I thought they did a great job with their singing and everything. And I was truly impressed with it. I went for the the rehearsal ahead of time, and I was very, very impressed with it all. And so it was really a neat event. And also, I just wanted to talk. I went to a ribbon cutting today in El Centro. I normally don't go to El Centro, but some of the individuals that are opening up a nursing school in El Centro, Honor Health Sciences in El Centro, next to the bowling alley over there, they have a really neat facility, and they invited me down, and I made the trip down. And then the press started interviewing me before they interviewed the mayor of El Centro, and I said, "Uh-oh, I'm in trouble now." And so, but it really went very well. It was pretty well attended. They had a nice ribbon cutting. They've already got, I think, 28 students enrolled in their program. It is a private school for nursing, so it's a private for-profit school for nursing. But anything that enhances our health services down here, I think, is important and worthy of our support. So, and that's why I went to encourage them. And they've been to some of our events during Cattle Call, the owners of this school, and they've gotten in contact with George. I've put them in contact with George, and they'll be dealing with us on a variety of different issues. Hopefully that will increase our nursing levels here. As we know, under COVID and everything, we need medical, we need additional locals trained in the health services, and I think this will be important for us. I'll reserve a lot of comments that I might make, and I appreciate everybody being here and the kind comments that I've received today, but I'll reserve some for tomorrow. The only thing I would like to say is I had made a bet with the mayor of El Centro, Tomas Oliva, and the bet was that if we won the Bell game, he would wear a Brawley t-shirt, and if they won the Bell game, I would wear a Brawley t-shirt. Now, to give you a little history of this bet, the last time I made the bet was when I was mayor before, 4 years or 5 years ago, whatever that was, and Brawley lost.
We're seeing a thing there.
And
right?
this time, Brawley lost, as you're well aware, much to our, much to our sadness. But I will say that I think I'm an albatross around the neck of the Brawley High School team, and that's why I decided not to run again and be mayor again, because I think it just tears us down and we don't win that game. But hopefully we'll win all the games from now on, because we're certainly a better team. But to honor my bet, and I put this off because normally I ask for the mayor to furnish me with a t-shirt. If I'm going to wear his t-shirt, I'm supposed to be furnished it. He did not do so. And when he met me over at Honor Health Sciences, he told me, "Well, I'm not going to request that you do that. I'm not putting you on the spot. You don't have to do that." And I said, "I don't welch on bets. I'm from Brawley. Okay, we fulfill our obligations over here. So I do it whether you gave me a t-shirt or not, I'll do it." I bought 2 for him to wear, and then I've got 3 t-shirts now at the house that no one's wearing, but I have the t-shirt that I wore the last time I was mayor that came from Alex Cardenas. And so tonight, just so that I show that I didn't welch on the bet, I have this t-shirt on, the Bell game with the Spartan team on it. And so I wore it, so that I don't welch on any kind of bets. And somebody better take a picture so you can
there
show
you go.
it
I'm
to
going to show.
Tomas. And then,
well, I applaud you for that, Mr. Mayor.
yes, and what also, thank you very much. What also happened was over there, I mentioned it to Tomas that I had it on. So he naturally told everybody over there, so they all made me unbutton my shirt and show all of them over at the ribbon cutting. And for that, for somebody that didn't want me to honor the bet, he certainly played it up quite a bit. So,
Mr. Mayor, I congratulate you for that, and I thank you for not betting underwear. You know what I mean?
Right.
Right.
No, I know better than that, because, in case we do lose, we don't want to show all that. Now, when it comes time for you next year, we'll see what you're
I think I'll pass.
You might want to pass, because he didn't really want to bet, and I forced him, okay, because he was scared. But I did force him to bet, and so I do pay off. Okay.
Good job.
So with cattle call and everything that went on, I don't think people realize how taxing that can be on a mayor. The cattle call thing went on for 2 weeks, and then we have the Veterans Day in the middle of that, and also Thanksgiving shortly thereafter. And then I had some personal things that went on with family, and so it was very, very taxing. And I did find that you can't drink 12 days in a row and every night and not feel bad at my age. So, but I've sworn off that now that I won't be here anymore. I won't have to drink 12 days in a row, see?
You know what the cure is for that? You just start drinking the very next day. That's
Make it 13 days. That's what the problem was.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, with that's my report. I do appreciate all the staff, and I saw the staff working very diligently during cattle call. They were out there day and night working on that, and I appreciate the chief taking me down the parade route. I appreciate the fire department taking me down the parade route. It was all very, very neat, and judging the floats and seeing everything. So as far as being mayor, I really feel this has been a really great year. And listening to the budget report, you have to say it is a great year. And looking at the staffing for fire and police and everybody else in the city, it's got to be a great year. And I hope that all continues. Okay? So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now we'll go to city attorney report.
Okay, so starting Friday next week, I'll be out of town for 1 week. I'll be in Japan with some Valley guys going to Okinawa. But I have my phone, and Tyler can get me on email or text. Hard to call on the phone all the way to Okinawa.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
Besides, it's completely clock is completely backwards. But I'll be available in Okinawa.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we're going to go to closed session now. Thank you all for being here, and thank everybody checking in online with the meeting. And so we'll take a short 5-minute break maybe here, and then we'll go to closed session.
Good job. Thank you. Hey, congratulations.
Well, it hasn't paid off. It hasn't paid off.
That's great.
What's happening, boss? Look at you. I like the belt button.
You should.